Good morning and afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our Fast Track Friday. Today we have Matt Nichols with us, and he's going to be talking about some API programming, some ways that you can automate some of those tasks that you're working on in Fusion. He's going to walk through some great processes and how to do it. Matt, welcome today.
Hey, how's everybody doing?
Awesome to have you with us. So you can give us a quick overview of what you're going to walk through today.
Yeah, so today basically I'm going to start from the beginning of, let's say, a project of programming. So I'm going to create soft jaws, put some toolpaths, and then I'm going to post the code out. But in a couple of different phases, I'm going to show different add-ins that I've created to kind of help speed up processes.
Very awesome. I think it's going to be helpful for a lot of people in our audience who do those day-to-day tasks where you can automate them using the API inside of Fusion. Before we jump into it, I just want to ask a couple poll questions as we do each week, because it's good to stay steadfast on getting your information back to let us know, because our audience changes each week, and we want to find out for new users as well as our recurring users who come in each week to let us know where we can help you drive your growth in your company. So if you can answer a quick poll question for us, it'll be really helpful. Just let us know in your organization, in your shops, and in your company, where do you see our interfaces, our CAM interfaces, helping you out to grow in your industry. If it's 2 to 3 axis milling, if you want to see more information and more in our development for 4 and 5 axis milling, let us know what's going to help you drive your business. Okay, looks like we have a good amount of you are voting. We're going to keep it open for a few minutes. Again, thanks. This will really help drive us to add more content on the web for you to help you guys learn and grow, as well as bring this information back to our developers who can help develop the tools on what you guys need to grow your businesses. Awesome. Looks like the majority has voted. I'm going to close out the polls. I'll share that with you guys. So it looks like we have a good amount interested in 2 and 3 axis milling, and we have a good amount of you who are looking into true 4 axis as well as turning and mill turn. So this is good. It helps us and guides us in a direction to be able to have more content for you guys to learn, as well as where we can focus in our business and focus in development to make sure that we have the best CAM to help you grow. Okay, my next quick question is, I want to know how many of you have been to Autodesk University? This year, Autodesk University is going to be at the Venetian through the 14th through 16th of November. And this is a great chance to meet some of our elite users, our power users out there, as well as developers and our power users inside of Autodesk as well. But it's going to be CAM-focused, a lot of CAM-focused training, classes, seminars, keynotes, as well as hands-on training where you can design up a part and go over to a machine and be able to make those parts. We also have a lot of classes that take you all the way through our product innovation process, from start to finish, all the way through doing simulation, actually making up a PC board, 3D printing out a housing for the board, and machining a base for it as well. So it's going to be a really nice walkthrough for you guys to be able to learn and also meet a lot of our developers and meet our power users as well. So it looks like we have a good majority of you who are voting, and I really appreciate that. Letting us know whether you've been to Autodesk University, if you're going to be working, making those chips fly using our interfaces. So it looks like we have a good majority that voted. Thanks, guys. I'm going to close out the polls. Okay, so it looks like we have a majority of you want to be able to go out to Autodesk University, and we're going to share information towards the end on where you can sign up and register to get out to.
I know one of those 10%, one of the people that is definitely going on the call here, Seth, who's always a huge help on the forums. He's submitted a class on quality and manufacturing, so he'll be there because I know he's presenting.
And I know that's going to be an awesome class because Seth is a great teacher, and he has a lot of knowledge in the industry. So it's a great opportunity for you guys to join up and then go to that class that you'll see Seth there as well. Awesome, guys. Thanks for giving us this feedback. And for that, without further ado, Matt, please take over and show us about programming.
Awesome. Okay, so I'm not going to do a whole lot of PowerPoint. I just want to kind of cover a couple of things about the Fusion API and things that you're able to do. And then we'll get into Fusion and actually look at how we can put them into play. So, first I want to look at what is API, the different types of integrations that we can do in Fusion. There's scripts and add-ins, and what are the differences in those, the language options, and then, like I said, we're going to get into Fusion. So, API is Application Program Interface. It's basically, a set of clearly defined methods to communicate between various software components, or just making it able to access commands and features through programming language. That's kind of how I like to put it. So in Fusion, we can do scripts and we can do add-ins. So the way to kind of look at these scripts are like a one-time use. You run it and it's done type deal. Add-ins are constantly running in Fusion, so they can be like the picture you see on the right. They can be something that is running and can be accessible on your actual panel. So in this case, on our post-processing panel. So in Fusion, with scripts and add-ins, we can program with 3 different languages: JavaScript, Python, and C++. So today I'm actually going to show 2 different variations. I'm going to show JavaScript whenever I do my SoftJaw add-in, and then my Haas Outpost, which is going to be hopefully getting posted to the App Store before too long for Fusion. It was written in Python. And C++ I haven't actually got into because I haven't taught myself that one yet. So with that, let's go ahead and get into Fusion. So like I said, I'm going to show basically from start to finish, programming a very basic part, but I want you to see the workflow that I have created to be able to make things easier for creating soft jaws and posting out code. So with that, I've got my curve vise here, and I've got this part. So this is basically a basic part that I would make multiple different times and variations. Now, one thing that was brought up last week in webinar, in the Friday webinar, was a discussion about the parameters and how you can kind of use them. So in this one, what I've done is, if you guys haven't been in here, I highly recommend looking at the parameters page because it makes things so much easier to kind of automate different dimensions. So in here you have all your model parameters, and I have my user parameters that I've created, and then I can, ironically favorite those with the stars, and then I get the short list of only the ones I want to look at. So if I want to, I can literally just minimize user and model parameters sections and just have favorites. So you can see here I've got my part width, stock width, part length, height, depth, and pocket depth and pocket angle. So real quick, and actually I'm going to delete this one. We're going to walk through just making one. So if I go into my model parameters, you can see on like this rigid one joint for my X value, I've actually got it driven by my stock width. Okay, so I've got an actual formula here: stock width minus ½ inch divided by 2, which gives me the value that I want to offset between these 2 faces to center that part in that jaw. Now the good thing is with this, as I update these 2, especially the stock width, those will automatically adjust and adjust evenly as I modify the part size. But first what I want to do is, if I go into this part and I go to, let's say I go to like 3¼ inch, you can see that this area right in here now has a huge gap in it, and which caused 2 different features to error out. So I want to prevent, or at least put something in here to where I can kind of prevent that from happening, to where I can control the angles of these pockets. So like I had earlier, I'm going to go ahead and put in pocket angle, and then under unit, go down here to degree. I'm just going to put 60 because I know that's what it is right now. So the next thing I need to know is, where is that dimension actually shown? So I know, because it's over here in space, since I ended up moving the part, sketch 9 is the sketch for that part. So if I just go down here to sketch 9 real quick, I can find my degree dimensions easily. So in here I can just start typing pocket, and it gives me the option, so I can arrow down and hit enter for pocket angle. Again, I'll do the same thing over here. Oop, as long as I spell it right. Okay, so now here's an interesting one to show too. So when I created the sketch, this dimension, whenever I created it, I actually picked on D155 to tie it to that. So since I'm updating this one will automatically update as well. And then same one with this one. All right, so we did that. Now if I go in here, I'm going to go ahead and favorite this real quick so I can collapse these. I'm going to throw these down to 45 degree. And now my issue is fixed with that gapping, and now I'm good to go. All right. Now, let's say this part's ready. I'm going to go ahead and create soft jaws so I can go ahead and start programming. So by default, if I look at my parameter page, I know my part is 3 1/4 wide. The length of it is 4 1/2. And my height is 5/8 basically. And actually I'm going to go ahead and change. I'm going to change it to 75. And I'm going to change my pocket depth to 4375. Oops. 0.4375. So now I'm going to go to my sketch, which actually shouldn't be in here. It should be under create. That was in error on the installer, I believe. So to create soft jaws, I wrote a basic add-in for soft jaw creation, and what it'll do is it'll create the soft jaws. It'll create a groove cut, or it'll create a cylindrical cut in the soft jaws, depending on the stock type that you select in the actual operation that we're doing. And then I can also define the box size of my stock or the cylindrical size of my stock, and it'll create that solid for me. So I know I want to be on the XZ plane, and later on down the road I plan on adding to this where I can actually do dovetails, but for right now I just have vice as a selection. So my jaw length is 5.969. My width is 0.725. And now if I don't know my height, the good thing in here is it acts just like any other variable text box where I can actually come in here and I can measure. So I can come into my workspace and actually measure that height, and it'll pop it in there for me. So then I can, sorry, question?
No, I was just going to say that was awesome that you can measure right there in the window. That was great.
Yeah. So then now I can define my actual groove width and height. So let's say my groove width, I'm going to do it as a 1/4 inch, and then let's say I'm going to have like an 1/8 inch down below. So now I'm going to, here I have either box or cylinder selection, so I'm going to go ahead and leave it on box. For my width, since my part is 3 1/4, let's just say I want 3 1/2. The length, part length is 4 1/2. Let's do 475. And then the height, we'll just do a solid 1 inch. So now once I do this, I can hit OK. And it pops it in there for me.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, so now if I hide this, you can see the parts inside of my stock. Perfectly spaced in there. It looks like my soft jaws and everything are already set up, and
Hey Matt, real quick, it looks like Bob has a question. He wanted to know if you can use Fusion parameter names in the soft jaw dialog.
So you actually could, yes. Since they're on the actual CAD side, yes, I could in this case. And that was actually one I was going to try to get kind of a short little script written before this, but I didn't get it finished. Kind of showing how you can actually do that.
So while your screen's updating, I just wanted to mention it's pretty cool that you're working with the parameters to drive the model. So it's a quick way that you can automate. If you can automate it using the parameters, you can also automate it with code. In the case of making the soft jaws, does it require to go back to any of those parameters of the model?
So the way that I have them constructed, which it could actually be done a whole lot better than what I probably have. If you modify this, I would basically have to delete the soft jaws and the stock and just redo it, because I don't have them actually putting any kind of parameters into my model. It's just kind of throwing geometry in there and creating the solids from what I defined.
Very cool. It's still very helpful. So you don't have to do all that work. You just put your model in there, and then you can run the tool, and it sets up your soft jaws for you. Yeah, so it looks like...
yeah, my computer's been kind of fussy with me today, so it's done.
With the new mic you have, it's kind of hard to hear the fan kick on in your graphics card.
Yeah, so nobody's hearing the airplane going right now.
That's right. Well, that happens, but that's one of the good things about when we do have it freeze up. Infusion it's a quick way to be able to get back to where you were at.
Yep.
No point in hiding things. These things do happen, Matt. It's not you that should be embarrassed. As a development team, we need to make sure that we're doing everything we can to minimize this sort of thing. Just while you're getting started back up, you jumped in very quickly, and I know we have a lot of engineers and machinists on the call. As you're working through this, you're very confident. You know exactly what you're doing. Maybe it'd be good to share kind of how you got into this type of API programming and what sort of the first step is. I mean, my perspective is you were inspired and you started to go after it. The point I'm trying to make is you're not necessarily a classically programmed software engineer. And this is very achievable for everybody on the call.
Yeah, so my background is, I did manufacturing for 11 years, and I was a solid Inventor user. I used many other CAD softwares, but Inventor was by far my favorite one, with the fact of that I had iLogic at my disposal. So with a lot of the places that I worked in the industry, I was able to automate a lot of assemblies, or in some cases framing structures. So there's actually like one company, and yeah, I've never had programming training. Like, I've never taken a class on how to actually learn and do programming. It basically all just self-taught and, just wanting to learn it.
So I think the exciting thing for everybody on this webinar, that's probably why you're here today, is you've got a problem that you're doing a lot of and you feel like you could automate it. Use Matt as a case point to say, if you understand what you're trying to make the computer do, it's not in the realm of the unachievable to go and figure it out.
Yeah, definitely not. Because if you look at any of the coding in my Addins, you'll see that I make a lot of mistakes. There are a lot of commented out areas because they're bad. So, but I leave those there so that I learn for the next time. I can make sure I don't repeat my mistakes. But yeah, so kind of back where we're at. And again, like JavaScript and Python, I didn't know how to program in those. I learned JavaScript because, our post-processors are JavaScript driven, but actually doing the API side of it was a lot more, it was different. But we have, and I'll show this here in a bit, actually probably not bad to show now, but if you go to the help side here, there's this programming interface that you can go to. And this site, basically, you can learn anything you want to on this about the API and how to do it. And this is literally where I would spend a ton of time at just learning what I need to do. So if I go down to the sample programs, modeling, I can learn all my sketching, how to do it here, and creating features. So there's so much help here that it's really easy to figure out. So like extend feature or whatever, creating sketches, it walks you through all of it. It has basic comments to kind of tell you what's going on, and then you just kind of figure it out from there.
So this is great if you have, if you're working on parts or you do something repeated, like you have a repeated process that you do all the time. This is good that you can go in and learn and find different ways you can do that programmatically. And you just run the script and it does the design for you, creates the sketches, puts the dimensions in that you need, and makes the part. So it's a quick way to get those repeated tasks done and automate them.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Yep. All right, so XZ Vice, again, I got 5.969, 0.725, 4.71. Groove width, again, 1/4 inch, 1/8 inch. My box width, I'm going to say 3.5. Length, 5, and then do 0.875. So there again, I get that. Now, one thing you'll kind of notice is that in creating these soft jaws, it actually cut out on the actual jaw too. So the funny part about that, I didn't actually want to do that because I'm going to actually use that as my stock for cutting the soft jaw out. So kind of a way of getting around that happening. So if I come in here, I'll just turn off the bodies real quick. Okay. And then again, really easy to create. All right, so I can take this. I'm going to go ahead and turn this body off for my stock. So here, I'm ready to go over the cam side. So my first setup, I'm just going to delete that. My first setup I'm going to actually create for the soft jaws. So again, parts I'm milling to. And then I'll go to my stock tab, go to from solid, expand these down to where I can find my my parts from my actual vise. Body 1, body 2. So that helps me, and you probably wouldn't actually machine these wide open like this. I'm just doing it for reference right now. But you can see now that since I've selected those two solids, all this area in between is now cleared out, so it's not actually seeing material there.
So yeah, just in case somebody hasn't cut soft jaws, maybe a quick comment. When you're doing this, generally you would clamp the vise onto something like a 1-2-3 block or a 1/4 inch parallel. So you want a gap to get the tool in, but you want the vise jaw to be clamped. So
Yes.
Quick tip for everybody.
Yep. So like I said, not the way you would actually do it, but just kind of doing this way for now. And then I'll just set my work coordinate here. I could, if I wanted to, actually. Nah, I'll just leave it there. So now, since I have that, I can easily just come in and go over here and grab my Lakeshore. I'm just going to grab these two contours. So I'm going to do a 50th step for the finish, but I'm going to do a couple roughing passes too, just to kind of make sure I get it all good. So then I've got my soft jaws program now. So that's to a finish. So now I can go in, and I'm just going to, again, create a real quick setup for this part I'm machining to. Come in here and grab the stock that I set up with my soft jaw program. Again, I'll grab this side. And flip it. Now I want to put it back over here. Okay. So again, this time I'm going to start off with the facing operation and just come in here and grab one. Clear this out. Face. Okay. Grab a 2-inch face mill. Okay. Now I know with this one I've got enough material up here. I want to make sure I do multiple depths. So I want to make sure I check that. And then I'm actually gonna step down 60. And then that'll be it. Straight line. I always like to do the straight line transition instead of the smooth. So that's just personal preference on that one. Okay. And then real quick, I'm just gonna throw a couple more toolpaths on here so we can get the part programmed, and then we'll look at the other add-in that I created. Okay. So 1/2-inch flat. I'm actually going to come in here and grab what Lakeshore Carbide calls the aluminum shredder.
Can you open up your tool library again there quick, Matt? I noticed something you did, and I want to make sure everybody's aware of that thing we did recently. Select that aluminum shredder.
The product link. Yes.
Yeah, and Matt did a great job. He added the product link to the catalog. Hopefully everybody's aware of that, but it was something some users had asked for. We're looking to expand that out so we can work with more vendors and provide a tool, and also how you would get that tool.
Yep.
Nice to see you using that option.
Oh yeah, yeah. Because I actually use these tools a lot right now, so definitely have them quick linked in there. But yeah, I show this out a lot, and it's actually really, really handy to be able to do this. Cool. All right, so none. So again, I'll do passes. So one of the things I like to do is I like to do expressions a lot in here. And I know there's some people that do and some people that may not have actually messed with them, but I actually have mine set to automatically default the tool flute length completely inside my step down. And so if I right click on this and go to edit expression, you can see what that expression actually looks like. Sometimes I'll actually do like minus 20 thou or something like that, just to make sure I'm not right at the top of the flute and rubbing the shaft at all. So I'll just hit OK on that, and then it'll update with that. And then one thing you always got to remember, if you actually do want to put an inch value in here, you have to make sure to put the IN marker for inch. If you don't, it'll revert back to metric. So a little quick tip on that one.
So that was the actual tool flute length from the tool definition, right? That's the parameter name?
Yep. So if I go back into my library and hit edit, I can come over to the tool flute length, and if I hold down shift, and hover over, typically it would actually show the parameter name and all that stuff, but it actually doesn't on the tool library right now. So that was actually one I did a webinar on this three or 4 weeks ago on that multi-axis part. So if you have a link to my blog, I actually have a list up of the tool parameter names that you can use in Fusion. Okay. Anyways, so 1.23 depth of cut. Now here, what I want to do is I want to make sure I stay off the top of the soft jaws enough that I'm not actually cutting it. So I'm going to change my bottom height to selection, select the top here, and then I'll typically just go positive 5 thou or something like that, just so I'm just right above it. Cool. So now if I wanted to, I'm actually going to duplicate this one. Since I didn't get these two pockets, I'm going to go in and pick a smaller tool. Again, and get my Lake Shores, 1/4 inch. This time on my geometry, again, I'm going to have machining as none, but I'm going to say from previous operations. So the good thing with doing that duplication, all my heights and everything have been saved, so if it goes out and tries to machine out here, it still won't go through the bottom of my, or the top of my jaw. Cool. And then 2 more real quick.
So I don't know if everybody's picking up on this, but I think it's an important thing to point out while Matt's adding his toolpath. Oftentimes people think about 2D operations being for prismatic parts and 3D operations being for surfaced swooping parts. The truth is 2D operations are driven off of the two-dimensional geometry you select. 3D operations are driven off of the 3D, fully off of the 3D model. And they work very, very well for automating the process of machining even prismatic parts. So if you're not utilizing 3D toolpaths for your simple prismatic parts, I definitely encourage you to do that if you're looking to automate things. If you want more control over the toolpath and really refine the runtime, then you're going to get more control from the 2D operations.
Yeah, and so the premise behind doing more 3D operations for me on this one is, since this is a part that I'll make the quick modifications to in the parameters, I can make those modifications and then just automatically hit update. I can repost code within a matter of a minute or less.
Right, because you made no geometry selections. It was just looking at the solid. So I'll sit back and watch.
All right, so the last one we're going to do real quick is I'm going to throw these chamfers on. Cool. And then do a little tip offset down here, so I'll do that. Just hit OK. Cool. So we can say that would finish that out.
Muted.
And then we can do a real quick simulation too, just to kind of see what it looks like. Hopefully it doesn't look terrible. And then I forgot the chamfer on that side. So there you go. That's why we do simulation.
What is it they say? Measure twice, cut once. Similar thing, simulate twice, cut once.
That is definitely the fact. All right, so let's do another real quick one. There we go. There we go. All right, so we're good on all that. Actually, see, like you said, simulate twice, cut once. I didn't do the contour around the outside. All right, so there we go. So now at this point, we've got 2 different setups that we can post out, and I want to do NC code and I want to do setup sheets for both of them. Okay, so at this point, let's say I've got a couple of Haas machines. So what I've done is I've created this post to Haas add-in that you see up here as well. So I'm going to click on that. Now in here, I've got the ability where I can write the program number in. It also lists out the setups for me. So here's the cool thing. So you can see here it's setup 2, setup 3. Okay. So let's say I want to make sure I know what's what. So I'm going to label this as soft jaw setup. First operation. Okay. So now I go back in here. Check this out. It now shows soft jaw setup and first operation. So I know clearly which one I'm actually posting out to. So I'm going to do 2021 for my number. I'm going to post my soft jaw out. I'm going to put it in just my D drive for my storage. So I am doing milling, and now what I can do is I'm going to go in here. I'm going to say Haas Next Gen Control, and I want HTML. So now, once you get past that, you'll see there's also hyperlinks down in here too. So what you'll be able to do here is you'll actually be able to go to each one of these links through this. So let's say I'm posting this out and I say, hey, what's the latest tip of the day?
Everybody loves Terryberry.
Yep, you gotta love it. So, it's just kind of a quick way to get to some Haas links, and then we also got the Autodesk Post Library in here too. So now once I get through here, I can go ahead and hit OK. Now here's one of the unique things. Remember whenever you go into the post-process dialog box, typically you'll have that user parameters or user properties page in there. So this is what I kind of wrote to aid that. So you don't get the properties dialog in the post processor setup, but the same properties dwell within here too. So if I wanted to turn on user radius and parametric feeds, and I only want to do a sequence or an in number at the tool change, I want to start at 1 and increment by 1. Hit accept. So I've already got my setup sheet, and then you can see my NC code just popped up too. Then you can see all the changes that I selected in there have affected through my code too. So it's just kind of a quick way that I've made it to where I can post out faster.
Unmuted.
Because then now that I have that, I can go back again, get my first operation, do 2022. HTML, next gen, okay. And again, setup sheet's already done. And I've got my options for here.
Just a quick shout out on the setup sheet. Some of you may or may not notice the setup sheets are updating in the past. The images were all separate files, and now the setup sheet can be a single HTML file with embedded images. Hopefully that's a nice little update that everybody appreciates.
Yeah, it's awesome.
So Matt, you took a lot of those steps that you do, you post to a lot of Haas machines, and you wrote some JavaScript to bring up a dialog box where you can plug in some of the parameters there. And then you made those steps really simplified, where it brings up a box where you could just select what you want. It creates your setup sheet for you and post out the code for that particular machine. I think it's awesome. It's just amazing that you're able to do that. And it was just a matter of taking a JavaScript and putting it together to bring up a dialog, right?
Yep. Yeah, and so if you kind of want to get a glimpse of what it looks like, I'll actually minimize that one. So that's the one I was working on before I came into this. So if you haven't been into the add-ins, you have your scripts tab and you have your add-ins tab. So here I've got my Haas Fusion one. Let's just do it this way. So then this is what the code actually looks like. And so this is all written in Python, which is actually a really cool programming language and really easy to pick up too. But yeah, so you have all your different options. And then you have what the actual dialog will look like is defined just right in here. So you can see I've got my milling and turning option. I've got the posts added into the pull down. Right above that is where I set up the actual list for pulling in the setup names and then defining the program name. So, it's really easy to pick up. And like I said, if you go to that one page, let's see if I still have it up. Yeah. in here, and you go to like the CAM samples again. I can go to generate setups, and here's an example of how I can create that programming. So everything's accessible for you to be able to pick it up and learn. It's just finding an application where you can save time and actually writing it.
That's one of the big catalysts, is having a need. And if there's something that you do all the time and you say, I know I can make this a lot easier, and then you can go into the code. And it looks intimidating, especially when you see it in an editor like that. But I think once you're able to automate one or two things, you kind of get the gist of what's going on. But I think it's a really good way to learn more about what's going on behind the scenes, where you can automate and make your work a lot quicker and easier.
Yep, absolutely. Cool. So that was actually all I had to show for this one.
So for that Haas icon up there that initiates your dialogue, is that going to be available for us to be able to use?
Yeah, so I'm in the I've got it submitted to the App Store to be published for people to actually be able to download it. And I think, let's see, can I get to it from here? And I can't. So if you haven't ever been, the App Store is actually really, really awesome. I'll bring it up here in a second. So it's just apps.autodesk.com, and there's free apps, there's ones you can pay for, but if you go to Product Store and then Fusion 360, and then just hit Show All, there's a ton of different add-ins that you can do for Fusion already kind of published here. So yeah, it's just going there and kind of seeing what's available.
So you were saying soon this...
Hey, wait a second, just for a second there while you're looking, this is a fun one. There's a slicer one that used to be a part of another product at Autodesk, but it'll take a model and slice it all up so you can cut it. Yep. And then Patrick Rainsbury actually wrote a little bit of a nesting thing in there that's worth looking at. Yeah, had a bit of a brain lapse there. It was 123D Make.
Yeah.
Very, very, very cool tool. Yeah.
So the latest one I've been hooked on is this Dynamo one, and hopefully down the road we'll kind of show some more stuff on this. This one is going to be awesome.
And I think the other thing is, you called out Haas and this thing you were doing with Haas. It's a good example. If there's partners on the line, or if you're a machine shop and a service bureau, definitely be thinking about how you could do an add-in that might help you expose your product or services to people using Fusion, help Fusion users better connect with what you're doing, and then you can make it accessible. So I'm glad you hit on all this stuff, man. It's good.
Cool.
So any Haas users in our audience, do you feel that would be a really good tool to have, to be able to have an add-in to streamline your post-processing and your getting your setup sheets? Yeah, it's like we're getting a few people giving us some feedback that, yeah, it would be a good tool. Awesome. So the steps of being able to automate the process to make your soft jaws and be able to walk through and create a dialog box where you can put your parameters in and it ties back to the model, I just think it's awesome. And if you do those steps over and over again, it's just a matter of going to learn the code to be able to make an add-in or a script that can make your work a lot easier and quicker.
Yeah.
Very cool, Matt. So from what we've seen out there, is there any questions you guys may have? Is there any questions for Matt while we have him here? It looks like Jeff had asked, what were the two add-ins?
Yeah, so the first one is soft jaw creation, which isn't on the App Store anymore, but I do have a link where you can, like a box folder where you can actually go and download it and install it. And then the other one, if I go back to the CAM workspace, is Post to Haas, but whenever it gets up to the App Store, it's actually going to be Haas Outpost. So it's just kind of an interesting name we came up with for it. But yeah, so that one should be available, I'm hoping, within the next few weeks.
Very awesome. Are there any other projects that you were working on, Matt, that you'd like to give us a preview?
Oh, there's always little projects.
I know that you were working and you had mentioned the Dynamo project. I know it's too early to show now, but I think from some of the stuff we've been talking about, it looks like it's really going to be amazing to work
Yeah, it's actually a lot of fun. I got 10 minutes. I can show it real quick just to give everybody a little teaser. If I can find my little part. Here we go. So whenever I'm learning this kind of stuff, I always start with basic parts I can mess with. So again, it all starts with, so you can notice I've got my CAM toolpaths. Go back to my model, my parameters. I've got the different user parameters that I've created to drive the dimensions. Let's collapse this. Drag this over. That way you can see everything as it goes. So if I go ahead and hit Dynamo, I'm going to export my favorites. And so this workflow it's not fully defined. It's just kind of some things that we've been looking at and working with other companies on. But what it will do is, I'm just going to go to manual. It will output the favorite parameters that you have in your list, and you can actually define basically number sliders and all that stuff. So kind of the same stuff that you would do in Addins and whatnot, but a lot quicker. I can set up one of these a lot faster than I can actually writing an add-in. So if I just start dragging this down, and I've got it set to manual run, so it's not actually going to run all this yet. So I'll run that, move this down, move that up. Then if you watch over here, it'll update the geometry.
That's really cool. So it's like a graphic dynamic user interface. You can tweak the dimensions of the part, and it updates all those dimensions right in live right inside of Fusion.
Yeah, and so you can, I've got another one where I've actually automated like a structural frame assembly. Had nothing really relative to it, but you can have different blocks of code that will be driven by if statements or conditionals and all that, and you can drive all the information and resize everything as you need it.
That is sweet.
Yeah.
Very cool.
So Matt, the only mistake you made here is you got everybody all inspired just before they're supposed to get distracted from work and enjoy a long weekend.
I know, because, so here's the fun part. I go back to my CAM. Boom. Post my code out. I'm done.
That's so awesome. So I know Matt touched a lot on working with user parameters and setting up those dimensions, and there's some good places you can find more info on that in our Fusion website, our main site, as well as looking in Autodesk Knowledge Network. But for you guys, if you, for our audience today, would you find it would be good in the future for us to have a good walkthrough on how to set up and work with user parameters and help them drive your parts? Would that be a good webinar that you guys would like to join? If you think so, please.
Wayne, is what you're asking, instead of this high-level inspirational webinar that you did a very good job of, Matt, you're suggesting maybe a few deep dives into the specifics to more of a getting started. Is that the idea?
Absolutely.
I'm seeing lots of yeses, Matt.
Yep.
Awesome. I think it'll be definitely worth it to set something up in the near future, of course after the holiday, where we can set up some good workflow and a good walkthrough on how to set up those parameters and to help drive your parts when you have families of parts and such.
Yep.
So with that, you mentioned the holiday, Wayne. On behalf of the Autodesk team, I definitely hope that all of you that are in the U.S. have a fun and safe July 4th weekend. The Canadians, it's July 1st, so most of North America is celebrating in one way or another. Also, most of you on the webinar here are power users. I should mention that Autodesk has a week of rest over the July 4th week, so many of us will be out of the office for the entire week. So it's not that we're ignoring you if you're reaching out. I just wanted to let you know proactively.
Very cool. So it doesn't look like there's too many more questions coming in, but it looks like there's a very large number of people who would be excited about seeing more of a deep dive into the parameters and the models driven by it. So we're going to set up another Hangout that's going to be specific for walking through those processes, and we'll work with Matt and the team to get that set up. So with that, again, thanks for joining us, and have a great 4th week. And as Al had mentioned, we hope you guys have a good, safe week, and we'll be back the following week to bring you back into more Hangouts. We'll do the Wednesday Hangouts as well as the Friday ones. Matt, thank you so much for walking us through the API programming and the work that you've done, and it's an amazing job working with the soft jaws and the Haas add-in. I think it's going to be a super popular app for people to download.
Yeah, I hope so. And thanks for letting me show it all.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for being here. Okay, guys, we're going to see you in a few weeks when we come back. We're going to have more Hangouts, and we're going to plan out that deep dive session for you guys. So again, thanks for joining us. Thanks again, Matt and our team, and Al and Renee and Garrett in the background there answering questions for us. So in a couple weeks, we'll see you again. Thanks for joining us, guys.